Hello everyone. Today's topic is world population. At first, we need to know the distribution of the global population. The world population is the total number of humans currently living, and the total population of the world is now approximately 7.8 billion, according to the most recent United Nations estimates elaborated by Worldometers. It took over 200,000 years of human history for the world's population to reach 1 billion and only 200 years more to reach 7 billion. There are 7 continents in the world, and 6 of them are permanently inhabited on a large scale. Asia is the most populous continent, with its 4.6 billion inhabitants accounting for over 60% of the world's population. The world's two most populated countries alone, China and India, constitute about 37.5% of the total world's population. Africa is the second most populated continent, with around 1.3 billion people, which constitutes 17% of the world's population. Europe's 747 million people make up 10% of the world's population, while the Latin American and Caribbean regions are home to around 430 million people, which is representing 5.5% of the world population. Northern America, primarily consisting of the United States and Canada, has a population of around 592 million, which is about 7.5% of the total world population. And Oceania, the least populated region, has about 43 million inhabitants, which is about 0.5% of the total world's population. Though it is not permanently inhabited by any fixed population, Antarctica has a small, fluctuating international population based mainly in polar science stations. This population tends to rise in the summer months and decrease significantly in winter, as visiting researchers return to their home countries. The map shows the distribution of world population, and in this map, the darker shades shows higher population and lighter shades are representing lower population. Now we will know about demographic transition model. This model is based on population change over time. The model was developed in 1929 by the American demographer Warren Thompson. This model deals with relationship between birth rates and death rates. According to demographic transition model, population growth rates for all countries can be divided into 4 stages. This graph shows very clearly different stages of demographic transition model. Here are 4 stages: high stationary, early expanding, late expanding, and low stationary. So the first one, that is high stationary period, and in this stage, look at the graph. This dark line, this dark orange line shows population growth rate, the light orange line shows birth rate, and the green line shows death rate. So look at the first stage. So what about birth rate? The light orange line. So birth rate is showing that it is too high. So birth rate is very high and death rate is also very high and fluctuating. Because why birth rate is high in the first stage of demographic transition model? Because in the first stage there is no family planning, and that's why population birth rate is very high and they die at an early age of at very early age due to illness, and religious and social encouragement also responsible for high birth rate. And death rate is very high because of disease. Frequency of disease is very high, and famine, poor medical knowledge, so people die in very early stage. That's why death rate is also very high. So birth rate is very high, death rate is also high. So what about the growth rate? So it becomes steady. In the first stage it becomes steady, and in second stage birth rate is still high, but death rate starts declining. There is rapid decline in death rate. So why they are declining? Why death rate is declining? Because of the improvement of medical care. There is improvement in water supply and sanitation, so fewer children die. That's why death rate becomes declining. So as a result, population growth rate is increasing in the second stage of demographic transition model, according to Warren Thompson. And in the third stage, birth rate, there is sharp decline in birth rate, and death rate remains low. So there is still increasing trend of population growth. And in the final stage, or in low stationary period, the last stage of demographic transition model, birth rate is very low, death rate is also low, and as a result population growth rate is also uh, static, and there is very slow increase of population. Characteristics of first stage of demographic transition model. This stage is also known as high stationary period or pre-demographic transition period. As per the theory of demographic transition, a country is subjected to both high birth and death rates at the first stage of an agrarian society. The birth rates are very high due to early marriages, widespread prevalence of illiteracy, traditional social beliefs and customs, absence of knowledge about family planning technique, and attitudes toward children for supplementing family income. As a result, high birth rate and high fluctuating death rates are common. For that reason, net population growth rate is very little. Death rates fluctuate because of high frequency of diseases, epidemics, malnutrition, famine, or other crisis situation. There is shortage of food and medicine in this stage. An increased susceptibility of natural hazards is another characteristic of pre-demographic transition period. And the economy of pre-demographic transition period is not stable. Urbanization rate is minimum, and as a result, environmental degradation rate is also minimum. Main problem of this stage is underdevelopment. Spatial configuration of the first stage is pre-industrial Europe fall under this group, and Amazon and Congo forest areas are falling under this group. Countries of Amazon and Congo forest region represent a pre-demographic transition period. Characteristics of second stage of demographic transition model, which is also known as early demographic transition period. Death rate began declining because health facilities are improving and the standard of living is increasing. Increase in permanent food supply and agricultural production. And there is diffusion and use of technology in this stage. Availability of food and water. And there is huge improvement in the sector of sanitation. Increased use of medicine to control the spread of diseases that is responsible for decline in death rate. And the population growth rates began increasing. And this stage is called population boom because population birth rate is high, death rate, there is sharp decline in death rate. So in this stage, growth rate began increasing. That's why this stage is also known as population boom. And it is thought that Bangladesh is passing this stage. Spatial configuration, like Europe and North America just prior to Industrial Revolution, China from 1940 to 1970, Sub-Saharan Africa, throughout much of Asia, Middle East, Latin America, etc. They are in second stage. Characteristics of third stage of demographic transition model, which is also known as late demographic transition period. The birth rate declined with urbanization and economic change, resulting in a lower rate of population growth. The death rate declined due to the use of modern medical technology, and spatial configuration is like industrialized nations of the north. And the characteristics of fourth stage, that is post-demographic transition period, low birth rates, low death rates, and low rates of natural increase. In some cases, population declines to zero population growth. This is the stage associated with high economic development. Urbanization and industrialization rates are also high. So environmental pollution and degradation rates are also high. Spatial configuration, industrialized and developed nation of the north. That is the end of demographic transition model. In our next lecture, we will learn about population pyramid. Thank you all. Bye-bye.